Hello everyone, and today I will show y'all on how to solo the Nightmare raids for both Soulburst Icigool and Soulburst Celesting. The reason why I want to make this video is so Loomian Legacy players can get the event saddles from the 2024 Christmas event. And the only way to get the Icigool and Celesting saddle is by defeating their Nightmare raids respectively. So, let's head right into the video. First, we will talk about Soulburst Icigool, and out of the two Soulburst Loomians, Soulburst Icigool is definitely harder to solo. But with this team, you should be able to solo Icigool at least the majority of the times. My first Loomian on the team is Soulburst Eruptodon. This will be your lead, and the strategy is to not only set up Magnify, but to also deal major damage with Hellstorm and Fire Breath. Soulburst Eruptodon is there to do major damage, and the more health bars you get down with Soulburst Eruptodon, the easier it will be for your other two Loomians to clean up. Arceros could also be an option as well, especially since it has Bulk Up and Slumber, but it doesn't do any extra damage unlike Hellstorm, which does a lot of damage over time. Plus, it is way easier to get an Eruptodon, so that's the reason why I'm using that as my lead. The second Loomian of choice is Oxydrake. This Loomian has great melee bulk, has Bulk Up, Rejuvenate, and both Primal Slash and Outburst to deal super effective damage. I prefer Primal Slash for the extra crit chance, but Outburst isn't a bad option either. Oxydrake is also good defensively, as it can resist Icicle Tremor, and is also neutral to Icigool's other attacks. Another move option is Metal Shrink. This move lowers Soulburst Icigool's defenses, so if it boosts its defenses, you can immediately drop them again. I run Health Amulet on my Oxydrake for the video, but Mysterious Dust is probably the item of choice because Haro can cause poisons, and Thunder Chomp could paralyze you, slowing you down. Oxydrake can easily solo Icigool if it doesn't get credit, and it can do major damage in return, making it a great Loomian to put on your team. My final team slot has Obsidian, and this is probably one of the best melee tanks in the entire game. It resists Haro and Thunder Chomp, while also being neutral to all of Soulburst Icigool's other moves. Soulburst Icigool moves could also give Obsidian extra resilience boost, and in my case, since I use Sharp Edges, extra Sharp Edges chip. But remember, Icicle Tremor is a neutral move, and it doesn't actually activate Resilience or Sharp Edges, so you do gotta be careful there. You could set up Drudges to deal extra damage, and you could Beast Slumber any of the status conditions away. The reason why you save up Obsidian last is because it doesn't hit too hard, and while it can solo Icigool, it does take 15 to 30 minutes to get the win, so it definitely takes a little bit. Plus, if Soulburst Icigool gets +4 melee attack, a critical hit can OHKO both Oxydrake and Obsidian, so you gotta be very careful. If you are struggling with critical hits, you could replace any of these Loomians with either a Square 1 Loomian, or a Loomian with a Terrifying ability, which lowers the Loomian's melee attack. And the Terrifying Loomians that I would use is Serenite and Samarine. Both Loomians resist Soulburst Icigool's stab moves, and can lower Soulburst Icigool's melee attack, giving your other Loomians a chance. Serenite can also set up Bulk Ups and Raging Flame the Icigool, making Soulburst Icigool waste one of its buffs on itself. Samarine, on the other hand, could Aquajaw Soulburst Icigool's melee defense, and then fade away into another Loomian, saving the Samarine for later. The biggest flaws for both Serenite and Samarine is that they are both weak to Thunder Chomp, but they don't have any way to heal as well, so you would have to run Health Amulets on them. Also, make sure all of the Loomians that you use on your team all are at level 50, and have TPs in both their melee defenses and their attack stats as well. That's so the Loomians can hit the hardest while also taking the most hits. With these Loomians, you should be able to solo the Nightmare Soulburst Icigool raids at least 75% of the time, because Soulburst Icigool can be kind of random on the buffs it gets itself, and it is a lot harder because of the statuses it can provide. So, Soulburst Icigool can be a little tricky, but with this team, you should be able to beat Soulburst Icigool at least the majority of the time. And you should be able to get the Icigool saddle for it, which, by the way, is an extremely cool saddle. You are the saddle, which makes Soulburst Icigool one of my favorite saddles. So yeah, that's how you defeat the Nightmare Soulburst Icigool raids. Now let's head to the Nightmare Soulburst Celesting raids. Alright, now we will solo the Nightmare Soulburst Celesting raids. Thankfully, Soulburst Celesting is a whole lot easier than Soulburst Icigool, and that is because Soulburst Celesting has a mortal weakness, and that is its very low melee defense stat of 19. My team for Soulburst Celesting is composed of all melee attackers. My leadoff Loomian is Specialization Metatoad, and while it doesn't have the highest melee attack stat, Electro Punch Specialization boosted with Specialty Gloves can OHKO an entire health bar off of Celesting. Not to mention, it also resists all its main stabs, making it your Loomian of choice. Something I do need to warn you about Metatoad with Electro Punch is that your CPU teammate does actually matter here. If you get Lucas as your teammate, his El Iguana can actually block your Electro Punch with Lightning Rod, which can be really annoying. You could definitely avoid this altogether by just swapping out the Toad while El Iguana is on the field, or by just running Slapdown over Electro Punch, but it does do less damage compared to Electro Punch. My second Loomian of choice is Lachette. You can get one of these really easily by using 50 battle points in the battle store. Lachette has tons of advantages. Petrifying is an ability that it gets, which lowers Soulburst Celesting's ranged attack. You also have setup in terms of Brawn Boost, Gnarly Gash to hit Soulburst Celesting super effectively, and Rejuvenate to heal your HP back. You could also run Baffle to pivot out, and even Bait if you have a teammate with you. Lachette is neutral to the Cosmic move, aka its Metal Stab, so you do have to be very careful. You should really only use Lachette if Soulburst Celesting doesn't have a high ranged attack stat increase. My last Loomian of choice is Malmurk. It has Bulk Up to buff its attacks, Aqua Jaws to reduce Celesting's melee defense, and it can pretty much tank any of Soulburst Celesting's attacks. It's immune to light, neutral to metal, and only neutral to resonate. Again, just like with Obsidian though, you use Malmurk last because it doesn't do that much damage. There are several other options as well, because Soulburst Celesting does have that mortal weakness to its melee defense. Bulk Up Terraclaw has a very high ranged bulk. It hits pretty hard with Bulk Up and Gruff Up, which can hit Celesting super effectively. Plasmoth actually walls all of Soulburst Celesting moves, and it can run several moves. These include Pestilence, Rejuvenate, Energize, Dissipate, Thunderstrike, Flash to Daze, and Taste to paralyze it. Although Plasmoth is a ranged attacker and it doesn't hit too hard, so if you are using a Plasmoth, expect the battle to last 30 plus minutes long, but it can easily solo Soulburst Celesting. I was also seeing if any other Loomians could solo Soulburst Celesting, and while using a raid team, it made me realize that Cleone is also amazing for this raid. It has Peace of Mind, Rant to lower Soulburst Celesting's range attack, and Rejuvenate as well. You could also pivot out with Dissipate and bring in another Loomian for free. And finally, any melee attacker that could hit super effectively can always do a massive chunk to Soulburst Celesting. You don't want to use range attackers because Soulburst Celesting does have a high range defense stat of 114, so it would take a lot longer using ranged attackers. Just like with the Soulburst Icigool raids, make sure all your Loomians are at level 50, and put all your TPs into your melee attacks in ranged bulk. With these Loomians, you will almost always win versus Nightmare Soulburst Celesting, and that is huge because this raid gives me one of my favorite saddles in the game. I love Soulburst Celesting's saddle design. It actually looks really cool. With these tips, you should be able to complete both of the Nightmare raids, which will award you both of the saddles. Hopefully, this video has helped any players that needed any help with these raids, and if there are some Loomians or tips that I missed, please tell me in the comments below. So, happy raiding! That's going to be the end of the video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!